always look that up. Well, you know what? I got a sitter.
Just one moment, I'm just getting us on
I got a sitter. I got everything.
broadcast.
Can you do that for me? Yeah. All right. It's done. It's shot. It needs a Bob point. Bob point. Fix.
There we are. Okay.
I saw it coming.
Good catch.
I saw it coming.
You saw it coming, so why don't you do something?
I couldn't.
See that body block?
Okay, now we're all posted. Now we can start. Okay.
Where on the
And
page out? Did we start?
you are in 63A, and I'm gonna find it. I'll find our place. One moment.
Still in the narrow section.
Okay. Yeah, let me just bring it up on screen. Yeah, Safari is so successful, you put Brachot 63A, Safari is the first thing that comes up. It's been an amazing success.
Area?
Yeah.
You got it on your computer?
Yeah, but they don't have all you read is in translation. So
No, there has the Hebrew too.
no, I know. So you have the Hebrew, you have the translation, but that's not the way you study a blood of Gemara. Reading it, you have to study.
Okay, we're up
like
to the
this,
words Darash Bar Kapara.
which is where? Supposed to find them.
It's four lines down from the 4 lines up from the end of the narrow lines. 4 lines up from the widest lines. See, with the standard Gemara, you can do that. Darash Bar Kapara interpreted. He expounded, is the correct term. Ezu Parasha Katana. What is a tiny parsha? Really a tiny pasuk. Shakol Gufei Torah Tuluyim Ba. That all the fundamentals of the Torah are based on this. It says, "B'chol derachecha de'eu." In all your ways, know God. Hu yiyasher akasecha, and He will direct your path. Omar Rava Filu Dvar Avera, even with regards to a transgression. What does that mean? That sometimes, as we explained with Eliyahu at Hara Carmel, you need to do at Hashem's direction and Avera in order to accomplish a greater goal. But of course, one needs to have the sanction either of Halacha or the Almighty. And I showed you in the Book of Kings how Eliyahu directly tells Hashem that you told me to do this. Okay. And there may be some other interpretations to Dvar Avera. Let us see.
He misunderstood God, let's face it.
Not in this thing, in other things.
He's saying God told me, but that's his word. I have to.
No, God told him to do that
Yeah.
test and to dump the okay. Now, so the Ben Yoda says, the Ben Yoda says a beautiful thing, something which is also found in
Who's Ben Yoda?
Ben Yoda, the Ben Ishchai, of Yosef Chaim of Baghdad. So he says that a person should remember that even when you did an Avera, and you went against God's will. Since Mekadesh Betuva B'chol Yom Toma, that God gives life, right? So God was giving you life and energy when you were thumbing your nose at him. When you were spitting him in the face, you did Avera, Hashem still gave you life. So you should remember Hashem's great kindness. Know Hashem in all your ways, even for a sin. Remember that even when you were sinning and rebelling against Hashem and disconnecting yourself from Hashem and basically spitting Hashem in the face, God is nevertheless giving you life. Such great is Hashem's kindness. And of course, the idea in all your ways, no, the Rambam explains that we eat and drink to have strength to serve God. We sleep to have strength to serve God. We have children to raise them to Torah and so on. In other words, everything we do as a means of connecting with Hashem. There is no moment in a Jew's life, even if you're doing the most menial labor, even if you're digging ditches, that isn't an act of serving Hashem, because one remembers Hashem and one remembers their bracha, one's food, and one knows that the money you earn from digging the ditches you will use for the Shabbos table to give tzedakah, and even to sustain yourself. When you sustain yourself for the right reason, that's a purpose. So there is no moment in a Jew's life which of necessity is disconnected from God. At every moment, one can be aware, again, whatever you do for a living. So you go to the grocery store, you're buying food, that is, be aware that you're doing this for God's sake. You're doing this in order to have the food, to have the strength to live as a Jew. So there should be no moment in which we are not knowing and experience God. Walk outside at night, look at the stars, take a moment to contemplate the enormous beauty and awesome greatness of Hashem's creation. And that's why Bar Kappara says the whole Torah is based on this. Because this is the whole Torah. The Torah, the angels didn't need the Torah, right? And now we come to a question someone raised. Darash Bar Kappara also taught the Chewy. Excuse me. Oh, I don't think we're shared. Sorry. There we are. Someone should have reminded me. Okay. Darash Bar Kappara taught the Omal Yidad Adam Espino Umnus Nikiya Vakalo. A person should always teach his child a clean and simple craft. In other words, it should be clean in the sense that it doesn't involve, getting yourself all dirty and messy like the tannery and so on.
So who's gonna do this dirty job?
So you should teach them that. Some people have to do the dirty jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's what you shoot for. You don't always get there. It's what you shoot for.
And as a matter of fact, somewhere in the Talmud, I think it's mentioned about a guy that was exactly that.
Right. No, it says better to flay a carcass in the street and don't say I'm a great man, support me. But in other words, you try to get your kids a nice, easy job. Sometimes, but sometimes your children end up with the hard jobs, like being a rabbi in a shul.
Well, what about on a larger scale? What's going on in Israel? So they're picking the easy job. Learn all day, but don't go.
So first of all, that's a minority of the country, and second of all,
Rabbi, the minority.
They're a minority, yes.
Ooh.
The Charedim are 15% of the population.
15%? That's not what I hear.
They're 50.
That in the next few years, they're going to be a third of the population of Israel.
But more than 60% of 70% of Charedim are doing jobs of some sort. Only 30% are sitting and learning. Number one, the men, the women all work. Number two, there are more and more Charedim in the military. Rabbi, they just graduated another whole unit. You know that?
Rabbi, if what you're saying is true, then they should get a much better
reputation.
They should.
Yeah, a lot of people.
They should pay some experts how to advertise this great thing that they're doing, because Israel is missing it.
Yeah, you know what? First of all, Ari just posted something. People are aware. The problem is that the leadership of that community, which doesn't include mine, because Chabad is everyone in Chabad works and so on. people go to kollel for a year or two. There's a few people who became great poskim who spent 10, 15 years in a kollel who became rabbanim, but 5
So
people, 10
what
people.
percent of Chabad young person go to the army?
So the answer is about 10% at 18 and 90 to 95% when they finish their studies. Because many of them are in
Which
yeshiva.
is never.
No, not true, not in Chabad.
No.
I've told you this only 40 times. This is the 41st.
Okay, 41st.
This is the 40.
Maybe
That the
one
general thing in the
registered.
Chabad is that people are in yeshiva till their early 20s. Israelis get married younger. They get married and spend a year in kollel, and then their exemption is over because they all go to work, whether a shluchim, most of them are in business or carpenters or plumbers or computer programmers or whatever. Then they go to the army, and as married men, I believe they serve 6 months, but then they're in the miluim, and when there's a war, they come and they get shot at like everyone else. When the last big Gaza campaign, there were multiple people who I know who were posting. My cohort is no longer going to serve miluim; they're all in their 50s. But the younger people, the children of my chaverim from Israel, and their younger brothers, they're serving, and we know about that. They were blogging, when they were on the front line. So I can only speak for Chabad. That yes,
you're talking for Chabad.
the most Chabadniks I'm saying. So that is Chabad. The reason I'm mentioning is because the Chabad sort of falls between the Dati Lumi and the Charedim. The leadership of the Charedim wants to hold up sitting all your whole life and learning as the ideal. So the leadership doesn't advertise it. The reality is that the majority of Charedim are today working, and a large, not a majority, but a large number are going to the military at some point. And the problem is that the leadership doesn't want to advertise it. They want to hold up the person who spends their whole life learning Torah as the ideal, which, in my opinion, not everyone is suited to spend their whole life learning Torah. And that's why, for example, in Chabad, we don't have any kollalim, for people who want to learn for 10 years. Those few Lubavitchers who do go to other people's kollels, because the Rebbe's idea was you learn for a year or two in kollel, and then you go out and make a difference.
Millions of Jews living in Eastern Europe, how many
Very
great
few
yeshivas were there?
So
the percent was maybe 1 or 2% of the whole Jew went to these great
that
yeshivas.
Is true, but we are in a much better financial situation now, and everyone can go to yeshiva for a while. Everyone can spend some time learning. But at any rate, my
Rabbi, the name of the place is perfectly yeshiva. Mizitz.
Okay, Bima learned also. Anyways, but this is all an old discussion.
Yeah.
But you should teach a clean and, in other words, your kid might end up being a ditch digger. Your kid might end up being a lawyer. Your kid might end up doing all kinds of things. But what is a clean and simple craft? Amar Rav Chisda machta the Talmud Yusa, cutting precious stones.
I got a comment.
Yeah.
I got a comment. My father used to say, "The money's clean."
The money
money's clean.
is clean.
No matter how dirty the work, the money is always clean. As long as you get it honestly, yeah.
That's true.
Other people say that it's fine embroidery.
Well, there is a prayer that we are supposed to do 3 times a day. And it starts, Ashrei Yoshvei Vetecha. Doesn't send exactly the greatest message. Ashrei Yoshvei Vetecha. But I'm sure.
Right. So the Ben Ish Chai says a very interesting thing that even if a family has lots of money, money comes and money goes. But if you have a skill that everyone needs and that's valuable, so that you always have. So it says even a very wealthy, Ben Ish Chai tells a story of someone in Baghdad who insisted his son learn to be a goldsmith. Goldsmith and silversmith was a very common Jewish activity, especially in the Sephardic lands, especially in Iraq. And he was very upset that his father, made him learn it, but his father insisted. But after a while, he lost all the money he inherited. The businesses went down, and at least he had this skill. So a person should always have a skill.
Oh, well, that's the famous saying. Don't hand out a
Fish.
fish every day.
Teach someone how to
them
fish.
how to fish.
Right.
Exactly.
So some people say that it means fine embroidery, like tapestry.
I remember in Palermo.
Yeah, and the Ben Yoda says it's not precious stones. He says that it's the embroidery the fancy embroidery that you put into a garment, which takes a lot of skill, and it's a very clean work. You're working with beautiful garments and fabrics, but if you can do it, because machta means a needle.
Now, is that simple though? It might be clean. It's not simple. And what about cutting
Light work. It's not
precious?
heavy work. Kala means light. It's not back-breaking work. It's not heavy work. You sit and do it, with good lighting, because you can't do it otherwise. It's a safe
But
environment.
well, it's clean. I don't think it's simple. Cutting precious stones.
Kala is
I don't
light.
think it's simple.
Hey, Herb, for the last time, kala means light, not it means not heavy lifting. It does simple is a bad translation.
Okay.
What I'm saying is
Gotcha.
that
Yeah, I understand.
it's an imperfect translation, as all translations are imperfect.
Exactly.
So kala means light. Kal is in Hebrew for light. Okay, so it's light work. It's not heavy work. It's not schlepping ditches and so on. It's like computer programming.
And don't mix it up with a bride.
Right, that's with a cuff, different letter. Okay, let's go on.
Color the color.
Let us continue. Now,
Okay.
Tanya, Rebbe Omer, Olam, you shouldn't have too many people hanging around the house. The Rebbe Yehuda Nasi was a very wealthy leader who lots of people wanted to hang around his house. A person should not have too many friends at the house. As it says, Ishreim Lisra, the friend in Book of Proverbs of Mishlei, it says that a person has friends to his own hurt. In other words, if you have too many people hanging around your house, they'll know your business too much, and having everyone knowing your business is a bad idea. Let's see what the commentaries say. That if you have friends, it's a play on words. Rea means friend, and litroea means to be bad, to misfortune.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the Hebrew word.
It's literal is lashon ra'ot, bad,
Yeah,
and rea means friend.
spelled the same way.
How to spell Rhea, please?
Reish ayin hey.
Hey,
Reish
Okay.
yud ayin hey is how it's spelled.
Okay.
No, reish ayin yud hey. Right. And reim is reish ayin yud mem. Okay.
Rhea is without
So
it.
in
Is
other
a different
words,
kind of
too many
friend?
people familiar with the comings and goings of your house. Yeah. What, Natalie? Natalie, what?
Is a different kind of chaver?
Yeah,
Or
well,
friend?
it means acquaintances. A Rhea is less
Okay.
than a chaver. It means acquaintance. In other words, you shouldn't have too many people running about your house because you don't want to, okay. Now, Tanya, Rebbe Omer, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says, Al Yamana Adam Apatrupas Besoch Beso. Do not appoint an administrator in your house. In other words, do not have a stranger, a non-relative, as a servant running your house. Had Potiphar not appointed Joseph as administrator in his house, Lo bolo sadovri wouldn't have come to that whole incident with the wife of Potiphar, because Yosef was always there and he was a non-relative, and Mrs. Potiphar was attracted to him. All the trouble happened. Had Potiphar not not made him in charge of everything, he wouldn't have been there that much. So a person, it's not good for morality to have a strange guy hanging around in your house. Well, let's see what the other says. I'm sure he has something interesting to say about this.
Tanya,
No, but Trupas is a Greek for a caretaker.
Yeah.
Right. Now, and more than that, because Yosef had the run of the house and was there all the time when Potiphar was not, he believed his wife when she slandered Yosef. Tanya Rebbe Omer, Rebbe Yehuda Nasi said in a similar sense about things that bring to immorality. Why is the parsha of the Nazir juxtaposed with the parsha of the Sota? To teach you that anyone who sees a Sota in her disgrace should renounce wine.
What? Really?
And why? Because why did a Sota get in trouble? From drunkenness is where immorality comes. So someone who sees a Sota in her disgrace should see that as a lesson that he should moderate his alcohol intake.
Wait a minute. Sota is a woman that has been accused by
Of
her
adultery.
husband
Of
of adultery.
Yeah, and
And
usually,
she could be Kadesha.
yeah,
I'm
no,
not a Kadesha,
holy.
but I mean.
No, but the
holy
answer, but
person.
remember, if you know the laws of Sota, you know that he can't accuse her unless there are witnesses that she was alone with a man without anyone else there for a period of time. No witnesses, no Sota. So there are definitely there's smoke. Whether there's fire or not, we don't know. There's smoke.
But she kept the door open.
No, we're talking with the door. Yossel. We're talking yichud, the biblically prohibited or
Oh, the door was closed.
locked.
Locked?
Yes.
Well, okay.
Omar Chizkiah Berei the Rabbi Parnach. Chizkiah, the son of Rabbi Parnach, said in the name of Yochanan, why is the parsha of Sota juxtaposed with Truma and Meiser? Lomer to say, whoever has Truma and Meiser and doesn't give them to the Kohen, whoever has tithes and Truma and doesn't give them to the Kohen, he'll need the Kohen for his wife, as it says, the Ishas Kadosh of Loiyah, a man who keeps his own holy things. In other words, he doesn't give them to the Kohen. Then if a man whose wife will go astray. So if you don't give the Kohen what you need to give the Kohen, in the end you'll need the Kohen because your wife went astray. And it's written, and the man shall bring his wife to the Kohen.
Yeah.
And not only that, the man will require assistance, as it says, every man's hallowed things shall be hid. In other words, if you don't give to the Kohen, if you don't give to the Levi, and you don't give tzedakah in general, then you'll need tzedakah if you're stingy. Amar Rav Nachman, and if you do give the proper gifts to the Kohen, the Levi, and tzedakah, in the end you'll become wealthy, as it says, whatever a man gives to the priest shall be his. What does it mean? Lo yeh, what shall be his? Mom and harbe, much property, because what you give away, you don't have. But the person who gives to the Kohen and to the Levi, and who gives tzedakah, will in the end have much money. It's an investment.
Hey.
Omar Ravuna said, Rabbi Barachia said in the name of Rabbi Lazar HaKapar, name of Lazar HaKapar. Kol Hashemayim, Kol HaMeshativ Shem Shemayim B'tzara. Whoever includes a name in heaven is distress. You turn to Hashem in times of trouble. In other words, you don't merely seek business solutions, but you turn to Hashem and recognize that no matter how good a businessman you are, your success comes from God. So his livelihood will ultimately be double. Shenem, as it says, V'hoya shakai b'tzarecha, when you include God in your trouble, the book of Iyov, v'kesef tofas lach, silver will fly to you. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani says, Parnasa Mefes Lo Ketzipor, his Parnasa sustenance will fly to him like a bird without delay. Shenemar v'chesav tafas lach, and precious silver shall fly to you. Omer Rabbi Tavi, Omer Rabbi Yeshia, and this is very straightforward. This is actually whoever weakens himself from learning Torah, Ein Bo Koach Lamim, so won't have the strength to stand in the day of adversity. Shenemar Srapes, if you are faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small indeed. In other words, a person who lives with the Torah, who studies Torah, has the fortitude and the understanding to make it through one's troubles, because one understands that troubles, the troubles are temporary, that they're worldly, that there's more important things. Even if you were weak in one mitzvah, shenema hisrapesa, if you were lax. In other words, if you were faint, in saying in mikomakom, in any way. See, even in weakness in one mitzvah causes a person to lack the fortitude to go through the difficult times. Amar Rav Safra told a story. Bavo have a mishtai. Bavo used to tell a story. Because she yared Chanina ben Aki Rabbi Yeshua Lagola. When Chanina, the son of Rabbi Yeshua's brother, his nephew, went to the diaspora, to Bavel, he would calculate years and establish months outside Israel. Really, it's only the Bet Din in Israel. This is before the fixed calendar. It's supposed to declare months and make years. But because Israel had been devastated by the Bar Kokhba rebellion, he and the Romans didn't allow Torah to go forth. He did it afterwards.
But that's always dangerous. When you
Exactly. Yossel, next piece.
Really?
Yossel, once again, you have anticipated the Talmud. You're a good man.
Okay.
So the sages of Israel said, by hook or by crook, even if things are very difficult, and we're studying Torah in secret, you cannot take away the fixing of the calendar from the sages of Israel. The calendar we use today is because the last Nasi, Hillel the third or the fourth, created the calendar as we know it. It was sanctified by the sages of Israel. And more than that, the reason why there's always been at least some Jews in Israel, and the reason our calendar works halachically is because the Jews in Israel follow it. Israel is the source of the Jewish year, of Jewish life, and this is what happens. And good morning, Danny. So they sent two scholars after him, Rabbi Yossi ben Kippur and the grandson of Zechariah ben Kabutel, who was one of the great Kohanim in the temple. Even Shirosam, when he saw them, Amarlem, he said, Lama Basam, what did you come for? Amarlem Torah, we came to study Torah. Hichraz Allah, they decreed so when they saw them coming, it was declared great men, and their fathers served in the Beis Hamikdash. These are great men, and their ancestors served in the Beis Hamikdash.
So they came from Israel to Bavel to study Torah.
Yeah. Zechariah ben Mekaputul says, many times I read before the high priest, we read this from the book of Daniel that we're learning tonight. We learned it in the Mishnah.
That reminds me, I need to write down 100% how to get on Zoom, because last time I didn't.
You just have to click on the link. I'll send you the link again.
I did.
Yossel, do you have a laptop or you work from a desktop?
iPad.
So you know what? Why don't you bring me your iPad sometime today and we'll figure out what's going on. Bring it to me. I'll help you.
It's nothing going on.
Well, the link works for everyone else. So Yossel, bring me the iPad sometime today. You come by and we'll make sure it works.
Rabbi, while we're on the topic, could you please tell me the phone number to call in?
Oh, you're not going to be by a computer?
My father's traveling. He may have a chance to call.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So the answer is that it's on the shul email. There's a whole bunch of phone numbers there. So just forward him the email, the weekly email, and it's all there when you click on the Zoom link.
Okay, I'll take a look. I only
But you know what? Let me share it right now. 1 second. Let me see if I can share it right now. Meeting info. You know what? I'm going to send you an invite. I'm going to send you an invitation, and you can send it on.
Great.
We'll have
Great,
all the
thank you.
information.
Okay.
Right after we get off. Now, however, so these scholars were going to take him down a notch in order to make sure that no one establishes the calendar outside of Israel. Hiskel hu matame ve'matarim. But once they came, they declared these great scholars here, right? So now they have authority. They're great scholars. Their grandparents served in the Beit HaMikdash, or their parents. This is 80 years after the destruction, maybe 90 years. So probably the grandparents.
So that's still before,
After the Bar Kokhba revolt.
after the Bar Kokhba.
Hiskel hu matame, anything he said tame, hey matarim, they said was tar. Who oser anything he forbade, hey matarim, they permitted. So he proclaimed about the national shavim. These people are worthless. She'll tell you, hey, they're good for nothing. Amulo, they told him, Kavar Benisa, you already built us up. I'll tell you this story. You can't undo it. You declared them big. Kavar Gadarta, you already made a fence. You can't break it. In other words, you already built us up.
How did you get this? Anashim alalu shel shavehem?
They're worthless.
Because
he knew because
shel shaveh?
shel shav of worthlessness. Shav is worthless.
Yeah.
Why, when I rule something impure, do you rule it pure? Why I say something is forbidden, you permit it? Why are you contradicting me? So it seems to me that they were arguing with him. He wasn't actually wrong, but they were arguing with him they were just demonstrating taking down his authority. They told him, because you are making leap years of Kaveh Chadashim and establishing the months b'chutz la'aretz outside Israel. He told them, V'alo Akiva ben Yosef, when Rabbi Akiva was traveled to Rome, he would establish months and intercalculate years outside. Amalo Hanak Rabbi Akiva, leave Rabbi Akiva alone. He's different.
Not the Rabbi Akiva.
Yeah, our Rabbi Akiva, he was in Rome for a while.
Really?
Before the Bar Kokhba, didn't leave anyone like him in Israel. Rabbi Akiva is an exception. Rabbi Akiva was the greatest of the great, and when he left, there was no one as great as him in Israel. So he could establish months outside Israel. So Rabbi said, I didn't leave anyone like me in Israel. When I was in Israel, I was the greatest scholar there. Wait, we're not. Amrulo, they told him, Gedoyim Sheinakta, the little goats you left, Nasa to Yoshin, Bale Karnayim. They have become great goats with huge horns. In other words, the students who were young when you left have become greater than you now. The Haim Shigruni Etzlacha, and the great rabbis in Israel sent you to say you're not the biggest rabbi anymore. And they told us, L'chu was saying our name. Im Shemo Abutav, if you will obey and stop establishing the calendar in Bavel, good, and if not, you will be excommunicated. But Amru and
Are we turning the page?
yes, 63b. But Amru, and they said, La'achenu shebagola, and they said also, tell all the brothers in exile and show me if you listen to stop doing the calendar outside Israel, good, and if not, Yalu Lahar, let them climb a mountain. Achia, why? Because Achia, in other words, it's as if you are separating from the Jewish people. Achia will build a mizbeach. Hananya will play on the chaninor, on the kinor, and v'yichbru kulam, and they will all have heresy and say we have no portion in the God of Israel. In other words, if you start now establishing the calendar outside Israel, soon you'll build your own Beit HaMikdash, and soon you'll go away from God completely. There can only be one place, because the whole Judaism is built on the schedule of the year. What happens if Bavel has 1 year and Israel has another year? And besides, that authority lives in Eretz Yisrael. In other words, even though Israel is destroyed and the Romans are oppressing us, Eretz Yisrael remains the center of the Jewish people. And it remains holy, and the calendar, which is the source of all of Judaism, all Judaism can only be in Israel. Miyad golam b'chiyah v'amru, the whole people cried and said, God forbid, we have a portion in the God of Israel. And they stopped their plans to establish Bavel as the center of the Jewish people, even though Bavel was much more built up.
Rabbi,
Are-
what does exactly mean to do the calendar? in
So
this
right
period?
now we have a fixed calendar. It used to be that they would look for the new moon and declare the month, and they would look at the year. If it was a wintry year, they would add an extra month, an extra Adar.
Mhm.
About 150 years after the story, Hillel the third or the fourth, the final leader of the Jews in Israel, the final patriarch, before the Christian Byzantine Empire completely closed down the yeshivot, he saw things how they were going. So he and his Beit Din and his court established a calendar based on the calculations we use to this day. And they sanctified all months and all years until the Mashiach will come, and we'll go back to the Sanhedrin establishing the calendar on a regular basis. So basically, until the 4th century, late 4th century, early 5th, the calendar every month was declared from Israel, and every leap year was announced from Israel. And what happened was that he was establishing the years outside, and they told him stop. Well, Kol Kach Lama, and why did the sages of Israel go to such an extent to stop Chanina? Because it says from Zion shall come forth Torah, and the word of Hashem from Yerushalayim. In other words, see it, and we're very over, so we'll continue discussing this story Be'ezras Hashem tomorrow. And I believe that at some point in the next 2 weeks, this week and next week, we will finish the whole tractate, which we have studied every word from beginning to end. Okay.
That's a big one. 2 volumes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Take care. Have a good day, everyone. And remember, today is Torah study at 11:30 for an hour, and the book of Daniel tonight.